Hi, I'm Kavya. Teens Talk is an initiative I started to provide teens with a platform to express their views and perspectives on issues that they're passionate about. Our discussion today is on Indian education system. Today, we have an amazing person joining us, Mr. Priyank Sharma. He is a school transformation researcher, an educator, a counselor, a professional social worker, and the list goes on. He is also a blogger, and his blogs bring out the paradox of Indian education system.
Today's discussion caters to the topic our education system. We all have some or the other issues with our education system, whether it be how we want to study and how we have to, or the fact that education is considered as a money-making process in countries like India. So without any further delay, let's start our discussion with the first question.
There's a wide gap between what students in higher education are taught and what the industry expects from them. So when they graduate, there's an urgent need to narrow this gap significantly. This gap is emerging because there is something lacking. So, what is lacking in our education system? And what steps should be taken towards bridging the gap between academics and industry?
All right, I think it's my turn. I'm
Yes.
not sure.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I should begin with thanking all three of you. I think, giving me an opportunity to speak, first of all, and you people talking about these issues. Normally, see, education is something which we all have taken for granted. Like, it is important, it should happen. That is what we understand. But how it should happen, what should be the idea behind education is a little distorted. So I don't know if you should begin with the answer to your particular question. Okay. So for example, now you just asked me that there is a gap between industry, what the industry wants and what is being taught in higher education. So if you look closely, whoever graduates, so graduation is actually nothing but an eligibility. So you need to be a graduate for a particular job. But ideally, you will get into the job and there will be an on-the-job training, which will train you to be fit for that job. So whatever you have studied, there is more or less very little relevance. For example, my first job was in IT, but I had no idea how IT works. I was taken as an engineering graduate who went into an IT company only because they found my grasping ability to be good. That is what they told us in the placement presentation, that we are looking only for people who have good grasping abilities. Rest we can teach. We can teach them coding. We can teach them anything. So in my 4 years of engineering, whatever I understood, or whatever I learned, as such was not very helpful in what I was doing. A choice I had made that I want to go into an IT industry. But more or less, if you look at jobs, any job, it is more about going on the job training. That okay, this is what is happening. Now so if let's say a hypothesis that you actually don't need graduation or what you have learned in graduation to do a particular job. How true is this hypothesis? That I am saying that in, let's say, a 12th standard guy who has come out of 12th, now he or she wants to directly go for a job. For one, let's say just assume that you don't need a degree. There is no eligibility of a graduation degree. Ideally, he or she will be same as me who has come out with an engineering degree from an NIT. My engineering degree was in industrial and production engineering. I went for an IT company. So he or she has a grasping ability similar to mine, let's say more than me. He or she should be able to get recruited. But IT company is asking me to get a degree, nothing else. So the degree is an eligibility. As such, the experience which I get in degree is important. I'm not denying that. But you can get experience from anywhere. Ideally, you don't have to have a degree for experiences as such. Now, the whole education system as such is based on this phenomena, for this eligibility phenomena only. Why do you need to get a higher education degree? You as such may not be doing, so you get an engineering degree, go and do an MBA. As such, there's no link. You might get skills inside those whole engineering experience which may be helpful in MBA, but that doesn't mean you cannot get it somewhere else. And MBA, what is being taught in MBA has little relevance to what you did in engineering. So all of us are in a way, trying to figure out what is the best way to get to a particular job. And eligibility of graduation is important. But we have to start looking inwards, that why do we need this job? How does it help us? Why do we need this degree? How does it help us? Apart from, helping us to being eligible for a particular job. So in this whole, let's say, economy of which is very, let's say, we look at GDP, we say that economy needs to grow and everything. We are talking about entrepreneurship and everything. We need to start looking at our really look at our degrees, that what we need it for. We don't need it for jobs. We ideally don't need degrees just for jobs. So the whole experience should be based more than jobs. It should not be that, okay, there is graduation, eligibility is over, or uske baad, go and do a job. So the gap as such is not just about getting more skills. That is normally the discourse in the academia, that, there is right skills, some particular skills if you get. But there is a lot of research which tells you that soft skills are much more important. If you have good soft skills, you have good problem solving skills, you can excel anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. So we need to, I think, ideally, we need to relook at what our education degrees are for. Instead of just looking at them as eligibility for completing some eligibility, we need to relook why do we need that degree. And the whole system has to relook that, do we really need it? And if we do, what are the goals of it? Apart from fulfilling the goal of eligibility, there is no other goal. Everything is a byproduct. So if you read National Education Policy's first draft, there's an important line that, education continues to be seen as primarily for economic development. Human development is nothing but a byproduct. It is happening. But education's major goal is not that. Somewhere it is linked to economic development, and that is why we are continuing to have it. And that is why independent India had first higher education's focus, and then only in very late in our first, I think 1990, there was a conference in Jomthian, where first time we had started recognizing the importance of primary education. Why? Because higher education was primarily directly correlated to economy, to GDP, but not primary education. So the whole system somewhere is based on those eligibility, those jobs, those economy, not on what an individual feels, how an individual can grow, what comes out of education for the individual as such. For human development, it's more an economic part. How much of it is making sense? Tell me that.
All of it. They say that only learning the textbooks or bookish language, it's of no value when you're not having an overall development, including, like as she said, we should have good communication skills, we should have a good speaking skills, and we should have a good health as well. So everything, so there should be an overall development instead of just focusing on this bookish language and only the education thing. What Indian parents consider is
I think this is great. So you people talked about public speaking, oral development, health. Now, I'll ask the question again. You see, school is not doing it. My question is, why are you going to school? This is public speaking. You are talking on YouTube. You're talking with us. This is public speaking. There are avenues for having overall development. You can study at. Most of the students go to tuitions. We know how much we study in school. So academic as such is taken care of by the speaking. So why are you going to school?
There are so many skills that you cannot learn when you're sitting alone. Like the COVID scenario has taught us that we sit alone in our room, locked up all day. Obviously, it was such a big leap to. I went to school just, I think, 2 days back, and it was such a big leap that you can't sit, you can't fold your legs like that, you have to sit like this, you have to know your expressions, you have to know how you eat, you have to know how to look. There are so many things. Discipline you have to learn, punctuality you have to learn, you have to be at the class on time. You can't just log into your class and start roaming somewhere, because like as you would in an online class, you have to be there. The focus, discipline, and there are so many things that manners, like greeting the teacher, and all of these things have gone down the line because of the online digital education that we've had for the past 2 years.
I think you have answered my question perfectly. The whole education system is based on this very premise. See, ideally, it was built to make clerks, people who would obey, people who are obedient. Whatever you just now spoke about is about obedience. You should be able to respect, you should be able to obey, you should be able to listen to your teachers. There are manners. So ideally, whole premise is factory schooling, if you have heard of it, is for people to be clerks so that they can go and work in the factory and not question the system. The school is not asking if teacher is doing wrong, protest against it. School is not telling you that. School is teaching you rights, but not to exercise your rights. It is not saying that, okay, go ahead and exercise those rights. So, see, I am not saying nothing happens at school. I can also tell you how there are so many things which the school system is based on. For example, peer interaction. For you to have, if you have other avenues, good. But for you to have social skills with respect to having peers, making friendship, and this school is a beautiful place to be. It's a microcosm of society. You be inside that school, you are a part of the society. It lets you be with other people as such. So that is great. But if you look at why the school came into existence, there was no education system like the way it is today. It has come up after a lot of deliberations with the need from the industrial world. So whatever Kavya just told, that is the premise. We need to understand that we need to go beyond this premise. We should not be only those people who are able to obey, who are able to listen to teachers, who are able to not question them. If they are going wrong, it is the teacher who is going wrong, but it is the teacher. We can't say do anything about it. That should not happen. That should not be the way school should be. But somehow it is turned the way it should be. So that is the idea I wanted to give.
My question to you, sir, is overseas university education has been favorite among Indian students for a very long time. There's this growing sense of dissatisfaction generally among the students that the current Indian education system of increasing globalized world, the lack of innovative courses is drawing a lot of young students to leave Indian and pursue for better education overseas. So how can we overcome this brain drain?
I think that's a simple question. Do what is needed to be done. How do you overcome anything? If you are not giving students what they want, if you're not letting students grow, if you're not letting students opt for example, in India, let's say way forward should be different, but we still can't have psychology and physics in the same class. If I want to do psychology as well as physics in my 11th grade, it is still a problem, which is shocking. The world has moved beyond this. We can't just keep on doing science, humanities, and arts. It may be good for the time when we were still struggling, but we are in evolving economy. We need to go beyond this. So if a student wants physics and psychology together, the system should be able to do it, should be able to make provisions regarding it. So the new education policy is promising a lot of things. Let's hope that there are changes like this happening. But it is as simple as that. If you want people to not to have brain drain, or if you want the Indian economy to flourish as such with respect to what people are doing and be part of it, you need to give them what they really need. You need to give them the flexibility to use their skills, whether it is problem solving, creativity, or anything, to be a part of the system, like to be able to contribute. You just can't say that no, this is so people will run, definitely will run. So it was not, if you look at the history of India, so India as such came existence only in independence, like 1947. There's no India as such. But I'm just telling the history of the landscape. So if you heard of Takshila, Nalanda universities like that, so if you heard of those universities, India was the hub where people from across the globe used to come. especially from countries like China, because then there was no airplane, aircraft, people could not travel so much. But there was a lot of people coming from other countries, nearby countries like China and other, and they used to study in our universities, and we used to be proud of what we had. We were having some robust higher education system. But over time, a lot of things happened. It will be a long prologue if I go into what happened with respect to history. But to give you an idea, we can get back what we have lost. We just have to do a lot more. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Don't call him sir.
Please don't call me sir.
Sorry. Sorry.
Let's compare to one of the most famous examinations in India, JEE and CBSE. So if we look at it, then CBSE has its own requirements, passing the CBSE exam and all, and JEE has its own requirements. Okay.
Exactly. And I have no idea.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry if I'm cutting you. If you have not finished, please continue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So like if there is a question in CBSE, so you have to solve it step by step. And if a student who doesn't want to go for BTech, for example, through IIT JEE mains, he can go, pursue BTech. But if he wants to do BSc or MSc and so on, so he has to give his CBSE exams. So if a student who is good at maths, but he does not know how to, there are a lot of students who are very good at maths and they can solve any question very easily, and they even skip the steps in between. So the CBSE has already kept, the marking scheme. When they create the question paper, they create the marking scheme simultaneously. And according to that marking scheme, if the step mentioned in marking scheme is also in the student's answer copy, then he'll be awarded 1 marks or half a marks. But if that step is missing, then the marks will be deducted. And so one more thing, in CBSE and in JEE, I'll compare again. In JEE, you have to have the final answer, no matter what the way is. There are a lot of different ways. But in CBSE, if you do a particular question in a different way, which any teacher, for example, does not know, we can't say that every teacher is perfect.
I did it.
Everybody is not perfect. Yes, sir. So it's not necessary that every question is to be done according to the the answers mentioned in the textbook or answers mentioned in the guidebooks. And students can do devise their own methods, provided the method is correct. And if we talk about the CBSE again, then if you do not do the method according to the marking scheme, then you won't be awarded the marks. Or there is one more problem with CBSE, that if you don't know what the final answer is and you know what the method of doing the question is, you will be awarded some of the marks. For example, it's a 4-mark question, and if you know how to do it, then you will be getting 2 marks out of it. And some students used to do one thing, they used to write whatever is given in the question and they would get half or 1 marks for that. That used to happen in my previous school. So there is this problem which is arising, and I don't know if it's in the schools out of India, but I feel like Indian education system is only focusing on one particular thing, that is bookish knowledge. NCERT. That's it. And other schools focus on everything.
Yes, Khushi.
So even I have a question, that why there is a big gap between 10th and 11th standard. Like in 10th standard, we used to study for 3-4 hours in a day and we used to get more than 90%. But in 12th standard, we are continuously studying throughout the day and there's nothing, we don't get anything, there's nothing that goes inside our brains.
We study all day. You ask us what we've done,
all day.
Nothing but study, and then
we are just studying at that time.
And the outcome
we don't get anything on our brain.
Still not desirable at all.
You all 3 of you are in 12th grade?
Yeah, all of us are in
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
grade.
in the same standard, in
same
same
section.
class.
We even have our roll numbers arranged, in a chronological
PCM.
order. First is Kavya's, then Khushi,
Yeah,
then my roll
PCM
number.
with computer science.
Yes. We all sit in
PCM
a
with
row.
computer.
We all sit in
Yeah.
a row during the examinations. First Kavya, then Khushi's seat, then my seat. It's like that.
Then Kavya should know stuff because she is sitting in front. If she doesn't know, it is difficult.
She's a topper. She's a topper.
Oh, then
Give us
then the
a...
lives are saved. Okay, so to answer what Khushi just asked, see, I have so many stories to tell you on this. I'm glad you people are touching this. And the way Malvika, you have put it all out there, you need to ask some really, really serious questions. So first, I will try to be on the system side and try to explain why the system is doing this. There's no logic in it, but I'll try to make logic. Reality is that. So now till 10th standard, ideally what you're asked to do is, you are asked to explore different subjects. You are told that, okay, this is science, this is math, this is social science, geography, history, or explore your interest. This is English, this is Hindi, languages. Explore your interest. See where you want to go. That is the idea behind it. And after 10th standard, when you're going to 11th, you are told that now you have had taste of different subjects. Let's go into more niche. And they are telling you, let's go into higher order mathematics, higher order physics, higher order, because that is why 11th standard when you got calculus, right? जब तक इंटीग्रेशन नहीं आया था तब तक लाइफ बहुत आसान थी. मेरी तो आसान थी. Life was so easier till the time we didn't have integration. Then they brought in integration and they also got in trigonometry, which was easier in 10th. But the trigonometry in some other form. They combined the two and make their lives. We are not going to use it anywhere. So most of us are not going to do that. Integration of formula tha bada virtual by parts something. Integration by parts something, I don't remember. I'm not sure if people have
it's the
come to
current
that
chapter
point.
going in our schools.
Acha. So so the idea behind it, that you should be able to explore different subjects and take a call on which subject you want to have a higher order understanding. But you technically don't need such a higher order understanding. Trigonometry is as such, nobody remembers it. Nobody. When I mean it, I just mean it very, very well. That nobody remembers sine theta. Apart from the people who are somewhere teaching sine theta or associated with sine theta somewhere or other. Sine theta, tan theta, sab gul hai, sabka. As I said, I don't remember heterotrophs. Because the other day I was looking at 6th standard textbook for some research. And first chapter was something related to heterotrophs. I was like, what is this? And I passed 6th standard. I passed well 6th standard, but I don't remember any part of it. So instead of cramming or building or telling you that, these are the subjects, and you should be having just an understanding is fine. There is a lot more to education for you to explore. Not just exploring subjects, exploring the world. So that is what education ideally should be doing, which is not happening. Yeah. And so many things. I think I have a very good story also. So Malvika is telling us that, you have to answer in a certain pattern. There is a marking scheme, and if you answer according to that, it is fine. If you have your own answer, wrong. It is considered wrong, even if you make sense. So I had solved in my 10th grade, I remember, there was a 4-mark question. I have solved it some other method. So it was how to prove 3 points are collinear was the question on that. I still remember it. And I had used a formula, area of triangle concept, which was not there till the time in our textbook. I'm not sure if it is there today, but that time I had used it. So later my teacher told me that you will not be given marks for that question because it is not there in the textbook. Anyway, I have more interesting stories. So what happened? I had gone to meet Professor Krishnan Kumar in Chandigarh in 2017. He had told me this story. So there was this girl who had got 95 approx marks in all her subjects, except one, 72 marks in her political science. And political science was her favorite subject. She was going abroad to pursue political science. So there was no chance she could get such low marks in political science. Very well versed and everything. So she had gone for re-evaluation. Nothing happened in re-evaluation. So her father was a big shot. So only people who are having some position, some power can entertain all of this. People like us, we don't have, there has to be a backdrop to this. So they had put a case on CBSE, telling that this can't happen. So there were three. What happened was, after case happened and everything, so the lawyers had objected and the case went on. Finally, they convinced the judge that okay, just ask CBSE, give the answer sheet to this girl. Let's see if you are saying you are right in providing 72 marks, then there's no problem in providing the answer sheet, which is not what CBSE does. CBSE will never give you a answer sheet. But in that year, because of some pressure, finally the judge told, okay, give the answer sheet. So that answer sheet traveled to Professor Krishna Kumar also. So there were three. One, answer sheet of the girl. Second, marking scheme of CBSE. And third, what the book said. Three things which need to be compared. So if you look at those answers, and this is Krishna Kumar's words, that I'm not sure if people know about Krishna Kumar. He was the former NCERT director, very well-known personality in the education space. So he told me that the answers were phenomenal, which were not at all matching what the marking scheme or the book was saying. The way she had written them, it was not matching the marking scheme. So now this was apparently very true, that she had done a brilliant job in her CBSE exam. It was CBSE's mistake that they should not award her the marks. But the system is such, if CBSE corrects her, if CBSE says, okay, we did a mistake and we'll correct your marks, then there will be cases around the country. People will be saying, I also did it, I also did this. Somebody challenged the system. CBSE cannot take this. So finally, CBSE did, okay, we'll do a re-evaluation. They did a re-evaluation. They make some logic or the other, but gave her 2 marks. So her marks increased from 72 to 70. Then she had to travel abroad and do her graduation. So the case went. After that, the case was dismissed. But that is the story. You do very good thing. You are able to perform much better than the expectation of the marking scheme. What is the marking scheme? It is an expectation that you can't give a better answer than what we have written. The teacher itself is saying, we are only able to teach you till the level that what we have taught, you can only understand that. That is why you have a marking scheme. Otherwise, why will you have a marking scheme? Teacher, student can apparently do much better than what you taught. You have to have faith in students. But no, if you have that faith, so think of it this way. If there is no marking scheme, there can be bias. A teacher might feel that this is a brilliant answer. Okay, this is good. Let us give full marks. Another teacher who is has a much more understanding of the subject might give less marks. So there is no common way in which a student can be marked. So there has to be a common way. That is what is marking scheme. The system is not able to come out with a better way. That is why there exists a marking scheme.
Discussing that in English, suppose there is a poem. So we are just taught the language that CBSE have approved, only one language, because a poem can have a lot of more meanings. But why we are only taught that language, and we have to learn only that language of the poem and write it on the exams and on the CBSE exams or any other exams? I don't get this.
Have you seen this movie Dead Poets Society?
I'm not a movie person. No.
I think all three of you, whenever you
Never
get together
even heard of
time,
it.
all of you, when you get together next time, screen this movie for 3 of you. It is one movie. So I usually on air or as such something which is going on YouTube, I will not recommend something which is even 1% not recommended to be shared. But I think it's a brilliant movie. And since you discussed about poem, I got reminded of it. But to answer your question, see, as such, you are questioning the system. So this is not a question. This is a question to the system. Why are you doing like this? Why are you not listening to me? I am your stakeholder. You are teaching me. I should be the one you should be concerned about. You want me to grow as a citizen of this country who is able to contribute back to the country. So why is nobody listening to me? It is also teacher driven. It is also कि teacher ने ये बोला, उसने ये कह दिया. I'm sorry, somewhere में कभी-कभी gender bias words use superman जो मैंने use किया superwoman छोड़ दिया या फिर अभी बोला so I'm really sorry. वो speech में ऐसा आ जाता है. I get whenever I speak, after some time I get reminded, okay, I should not speak like this. But the idea is to be gender neutral here. So that is a question all of you should ask, and in a major way. So I'll tell you another thing. This is something important. See, there was, I think, few years back, you should have seen on news, there was a mass protest. Why? Because there was cheating. Cheating happened in board exams, and CBSE had taken out a circular that there will be re-exams happening. So across the country, there were protests by students, parents, and everywhere that students are already so pressurized, they cannot give the exams again, it is not possible, CBSE can't do this to students, this is not happening, we will not do it. Huge protests. And after protest, CBSE was like, okay, fine, if you don't want to give it, we have identified that in these areas cheating happened, so we will conduct exam only for these areas, rest everywhere there is no need of re-exams. But I didn't understand the idea. You have already studied the subject. You as a student, you know it. There is cheating somewhere happening. So you don't want to be biased. You want to say that everybody should get fair marks. What is the problem in giving the exam again? I understand there is pressure. You want to do it. But now that you've already read it and you see somewhere in the system there is some mishap which has already happened, so why are you not cooperating? You don't want to give it. Protests happened. CBSE took back the circular, saying that okay, we will not have re-exams. See the power of pupil itself. Pupil, if they demand, if they are able to tell CBSE what rubbish road-based system you have developed, we don't want it. If there is protest, if there is demand by the system, by the people telling the CBSE this is not working, we are not taking your shit anymore, you can't do this to us, why will it not change? It is us who have been so accustomed to it. We are saying that okay, it is fine, ठीक है, अब road है तो road है, we will do sessions like this, we'll be like, such a bad system, oh my god, I will set few things, write few blogs and that's it. But collectively, students have a lot of power, power is in the sense that we should be together and more people like you, students like you should come forward and, raise your voices. The more collective voice we are able to raise in terms of what CBSE is doing or what the education system is, it has to change. Why will it not? We cannot simply say that government is responsible, हमारा काम खत्म, अब तो घर बैठो, अब ऐसा है तो ऐसा है. So we have example where CBSE has taken back its circulars. So it is not like we don't have the power. We have it. We just don't do it. So let's just also try to raise more of our voices in collective form. Not make your voice reach to more people. Ask more people to join in. It is not possible. Let's be hopeful there.